Hi developers. In the last session, we have created a customer controller class. In the customer controller class, we have created a method called add new customer, which will be taking the customer as the parameter, and we will be processing the customer request, and we will be saving the customer details into the database. Okay. So whatever the method which we have written, it is a post mapping. It's a post method actually. Okay. So now what if I want to retrieve the same customer details by passing an ID? Okay. So here in the last session, we have stored the customer details with the ID 1, email, mobile number, and the name. Now, what I want to do is I will be passing this ID. Based on this ID, I'll be retrieving all these details, all these customer details. Okay. So how we will be going to do that? Let's see. Okay. So I'll be creating a endpoint like how I have created over here. I'll be creating a method. I'll make that method to accept the customer ID. I'll make the method to accept the customer ID as a parameter, and I'll be passing that customer ID to the customer service. Customer service will be internally connecting with the JPA repository. It will be fetching the customer details, and we will be giving back the customer details to the postman. That's what we are going to do now. So let's create a method now. So I'll be creating a method public. As of now, let's write void public void. I'll say get customer by ID. Get customer by ID. So here you will be passing the customer ID. So here you'll be passing the customer as an ID. So let's see. You'll be taking the customer as an ID. Now, how you will be getting this ID? So you will be passing the customer ID as a parameter in your URL. Now you want to read this one. So how you will do that? How you will do that? So you will be using a get mapping annotation, and you'll be using the get mapping annotation. All the get request will be mapped to over here. And what is an endpoint? Slash customers is an endpoint, and I want to read the ID value, right? So I'll be using ID. This is how I want to read this ID value to this one. So what I will use is, this is a path variable. Okay. So I'll be using a annotation called at path variable. At path variable annotation, I'll be using it. P is a capital. At path variable annotation, I will be using it to read this value. Let me import this one. RIABLE. Okay, that's fine. Not this fine. Okay, so at path variable annotation, we'll use it and we'll read this ID value and we'll be pasting it to here actually. So now from here, we will be taking that value and we'll be passing it to the, customer services. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll be writing a return statement saying that customer service dot retrieve customer by ID. So you need to pass the ID now to the customer. You need to pass the ID to the retrieve customer by ID method. This retrieve customer ID method is throwing an exception. Why? Because the customer service doesn't have this retrieve customer by ID method. So what it is doing, it is asking us to create the retrieve customer ID by method inside the customer service. Now let's go and create a method. So now here we have created a method. Okay. So now here, when you get inside this retrieve customer by ID, so you are passing the ID as a parameter. Now what we are doing internally, we will be using the customer service internally using the customer repository to store and fetch the data from the database. Okay. So now I want to fetch the customer details by passing the customer ID. I'll say customer repository dot, I'll be passing the customer ID to find the customer details. I'll be saying find by ID. So here I'll be passing the ID details. Okay. Now, what if your customer? So what if your customer? What if the ID which is given by you is not available? At that time, it will be throwing an exception, right? In order to handle that, we have a optional class. Actually, in the optional class, we will be having a multiple methods which will be we will be using any one of it. Actually, as of now, I'll be using or else throw method. So what it will be doing is, so if the ID, the requested ID is found in the database table, it will be retrieving those details, and it will be returning back to the, it will be retrieving those details as of now. Just think that it will be retrieving those details. If there is no, if the given ID is not found, okay, if the given ID is not found, at that time you have to throw an exception saying like the customer ID is not found actually. Okay, so you can do this way. So this or else method, if you get inside this or else method, this or else method will be taking the supplier as a parameter. So, if you have gone through my Java 8 sessions, supplier is one of the functional interface which is provided by the Oracle in Java 8. Supplier doesn't take any arguments. It will just return the value. It will just return the value when you are calling the get function. Okay. So now here, what you are doing, you are using the supplier, and you are returning the exception actually. And here in the exception you will be saying like customer ID is not found, customer not found with the given ID. See, it is by default it is coming. Okay, so if the ID not found, you will be throwing an exception. If the ID is found, you will be directly returning an object. Okay, so now here I'll say return. So now the type would be changing over here. So I'll say here customer. Cool. So now let me go back to my controller. In the controller also, I'll be changing the return type to customer. Okay. Fine. This is fine. Now, so let me recap it once what we have done so far. So we have created a method called get customer by ID, which is reading the ID value which is passed from the postman. Actually, how you are reading the ID value will be using the at path variable annotation. That's what you are doing. And once you are getting the ID value from the postman, what you are doing is you will be like, passing this ID value to the customer service, so that customer service will be internally connecting to the DB, and it will be fetching the customer details actually. Okay, so here we are passing the ID to the customer repository. Customer repository is checking for the database. Okay, for example, in our case, like if I am passing the ID 1, it is coming over here and it will be checking if the ID value is 1 is there or not. So if it is there, if it is here, right, this is here, the ID value 1 is available now. So if it is available, what it will be doing is it will be returning this entire customer details actually. If not, so it will be throwing an exception like customer not found with the given ID. Okay, that's what it will be throwing it actually. So this is how it will be working when you are retrieving the ID. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll be testing this functionality. Now here I have the postman request. Okay, this is the request, postman request. Let me fire up the request now. Let me send the request now. This time it should be getting the customer details. Okay, oh, here you can see my customer service application is not started. Now let's start my customer service application to request the to fire up the request and get the customer details actually. So first we will be checking the success scenario. Okay, once the success scenario is once we are getting the data for the success scenario, then we will be testing the negative scenario as well. Okay, so let me go here, let me fire up the request again, send. So this time it will be getting the details actually. So when you are passing the ID 1, so the ID 1 is already exist in the database table, so it is retrieving these details. The same details you can see over here. Now, if I pass the ID number 2, if I pass the ID which is not exist in the database, you can see the ID number 2 is not existing in the database. So this time it will be throwing an exception like customer ID not found exception. See here, customer not found with the given ID 2. Okay, so I hope you got it. Now, we have completed this one. Okay, in the next session, what we will be doing is we will be, uh, we'll be pushing this code. Actually, we have the latest changes right now. We will be pushing the code to the GitHub repository. Okay, so I hope this is fine. In the next session, we will be seeing how to push the code to the GitHub repository, latest code, how to push the latest code to the GitHub repository. Okay, thank you for watching.